So. All right.
Well, if they made it out of nowhere metal.
Oh man. Well, that would be something.
That would be impossible.
Well, be surprised. People can be very creative.
Yeah, you don't go double kick. You go double hi hat.
Alrighty. So, let's review some styles, because that's going to be the next step, right? Is once we get you going on Out of Nowhere, I'm going to start giving you other charts, and they're not always going to be the same style, right? So let's see. You pull out a samba. That seems to be the one that is the hardest for you to remember. Slower. Bossa's mellow. That was very interesting. So you were hearing mambo. Bossa's boom. I don't think I have a Roomba chart in here, but if I did, we would probably go over that. But okay, so good to have those on the back burner. I'm gonna have you try something before we jump into our jazz reading. I'm gonna have you go ahead and
just pick a random song and play it.
Kind of. It's gonna feel random to you, but I've selected it to be in a style. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to listen for long enough that you can pick up what style you think you're going to use, and then I'll back it up and you can actually play along with it.
Is there styles like...
Sort of. Ska is an option, I suppose.
Oh, like rock or punk?
Which is kind of punk jazz.
Like pop punk? So what style do you think you might use for this? Several different ways. So what you were working on there is one that works. You could even bring your left hand up to that top. You can use the bell on the ride cymbal. So I'll go ahead
ahead and start it over. Think about listen for verse, chorus, intro, bridge, all of that kind of stuff.
Just listen?
And no, you're going to play as it goes. But just kind of try to do something on the fly and be as musical as you can about it. Okay? Am I expecting some weird stuff to happen? Yeah, you've never heard the song before. No big deal, right? So, just try to adapt as the song moves on. Sounds good? Alright. So, not too bad, right? I think. So, how do you think? How do you feel about having gone through that? That was okay. What might you change if you had a second chance to go again?
Just stay really between there and there. It's not much else. It's just.
So what if I told you to turn it into more of a drum cover, where you can use more variety? Then what would you change?
Everything.
Yeah. I noticed you used the snare a little bit, but for the most part you hung out on the toms. A couple things that I thought were cool. It was neat when you brought your left hand over here. It was neat when you did a couple things up on the bell. But yeah, for the most part, pretty easy, right?
What is that song?
That was this one, Famale. That was actually a song that Mason brought me about 2 weeks ago, because Mason's working on SoCal right now, and so he went and found that song. And that's the one that he's been working on. So that's why it's in my search cue. But we're gonna do stuff like this more often. I'm gonna just play a bossa for you, and you're gonna have to
Or like
kind of hang out and play a bossa. I'm gonna bring in a samba. You're gonna have to kind of hang in there and play a samba that you've never heard before, right?
what if you just put like some straight up punk in front of me?
Sure, I could do that too.
Let's
Could
do
put
it.
could put ska in front of you. I can put whatever.
Alright, let's put some punk in
but-
front of me.
Here's the big thing, right? Is that this is meant to stretch your weaker areas more than it is to boost your strong areas, right? So I can do that, throw in a curveball every once in a while to surprise you so that you got something fun, but that's not going to be the main goal, right? Because especially if it's something you really like to do, like punk rock, you're probably going to do that on your home or on your own at home anyway, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna
but
do
yeah,
some
the
punk
big
rock.
one is just that kind of stuff happens all the time. You know, I got a call to go jump in with a jazz band, and they were starting in an hour, and so I had to just drive straight there, set up my drums, and play with no real warm up or anything at all. And they would call a song that I hadn't heard before, and I'd have to say, "What is this?" And they go, "Oh, this is just a shuffle. No worries." Like, "Oh, this is a samba. Can you play a samba?" Like, "Yeah, I can play a samba."
Was that the one where you just played time the entire time? Or what?
During the jazz swing tunes, yeah, for sure. I at the time I felt a lot more comfortable with bossas and shuffles and whatever else. There were a couple other sort of classics that got played that I had recognized before, but definitely when it came to jazz swing, I was very new at jazz, so I didn't do a lot. But
was
that
good.
kind of stuff happens in real life. There was another one where I was at it was some kind of like the one that you came to at our church, where there was a jolly jump and all this stuff. There was a band that was supposed to be playing, and the drummer got in a car accident, and so the band was like, "We need somebody," and I was like, "I'll do it." So I just sat down and played all their songs with them, even though I'd never heard them before. They were originals, so there was no way for me to have heard them unless I knew the band, right? So the big thing is, as long as you feel confident in your different styles, then if someone throws something at you that you've never heard before, you can at least kind of hang in there, right? In fact, you were comfortable enough with that one that I got the feeling that you felt it was a little bland and repetitive. You're like, I was wishing that I could do more stuff, right? So,
Yeah, next time just like something a little more.
well, I wasn't sure how that would go. I could pick something a little more complicated, but there's also a threshold where if I pick something too complicated, you're going to get frustrated, right? So sometimes they're going to be simpler, sometimes they're going to be more complicated. What I will say though is that if something feels really simple, you can give me a look. If I give you one of these, you can go ahead and improvise, you can embellish, you can do whatever you want, yeah. So especially because that song was a lot longer than I expected it to be. I've been kind of working on it with Mason, but he hasn't been able to play it front to back. How long is this song? Oh, it's only 3 minutes. It felt like a long time to me.
It was a long time. Felt like 5.
But yeah, if you're nailing it and you kind of look over like, hey, can I embellish? Yeah, sure, no problem. But sometimes they might be a little bit harder, right? I almost picked this one. This is the soca that Ben is working on. But I thought that one might feel a little too slow for you. But yeah, but you can hear it a little bit. In fact, how about this? Since we're already kind of in soca mood for today, you can go ahead and play along to this one too. This one's a little bit slower. So hold on, if I'm still talking, don't start playing yet. But because this one's a little bit slower, you'll have more room to maneuver around, so you can embellish and have some fun with it. Use your hi-hat, use your ride, use your snare, use your toms, whatever. You can have some fun with it. Sound good? All right, here you go. So yeah. Anyway, we're gonna do stuff like that. So sometimes it's gonna be a little bit easier. I think sometimes it's gonna be a little bit harder.
I just noticed I didn't look at you for the embellishment sign, but I went ahead.
Yeah. Well, I told you to embellish right up front, so no big deal. Yeah, if I wanted more of a studio style, I would have tapped you at some point. I would have told you to simplify. Okay. So with that, last time we were doing Out of Nowhere, we had introduced
The solo.
some soloing, right?
Yeah, and you had just introduced the.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's so that kind of thing. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told Wyatt. For those, I can show you all kinds of individual licks. Is usually what we call those. We call those licks or riffs. You know, that kind of thing. If there's one that I play that you really like, stop me and ask me to show it to you, and I can show it to you. You can work on it at home and learn it, and then it can become yours. If I'm showing you a lick, maybe I kind of want you to learn it for the sake of the coordination of it. But if it's not your favorite lick, you don't have to use it. Does that make sense? Like, I'm just kind of showing you some stuff that I know how to do, but it's not mandatory quite the same as like, okay, you're learning a style. You have to listen to this. You have to listen to some songs in the style. You have to do these couple things because they're, you know, integral to the style, stuff like that, right? You're not gonna play a samba without being able to do samba feet, right? So, yeah. So as far as like that lick is concerned, if you like it and you want to use it, you're welcome to. But if you don't, then you don't have to. However, so in the case of 3-5-4, right, that's less of a lick and more of like a structure that we're going to use at the beginning when we're learning how to solo. When you become more proficient at soloing, you can ditch it entirely and you don't have to use it anymore if you don't want to. But for right now, I'm giving you a framework because you've never done it before. Okay? So the idea is if you're taking an 8-bar solo, you can break it into 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2. I break them into 2-bar pieces.
The last one.
The last one, yeah. Yep, the last one is about to bring your band back in. So that means you're really only having to solo for 6 bars, which means if you're doing 3-5-4, 5-4-3, then you only have to do that 3 times, right? And then your solo's already over. So being able to then change up the way that you play it is going to give you a lot more mileage, right? So instead of having to always do it on the toms, you can mix it up. Right? That kind of a thing. You can mix and match whatever. You can go up to the cymbals. You can do the whole thing on the ride with your bass drum. You can bark your hat a couple times. You know, whatever it is that you want to do. But that's at least just to kind of get you started. Okay? So I'll give you one run from the top. When we get to 49, we're going to treat them as 2 independent solos, okay? So 1 8-bar solo, but you're going to end it as if you were going to hand it off to somebody else, and then you can just do another one, okay? Normally you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
If you were taking a full 16-bar solo, you wouldn't end it until the end, but for the sake of getting used to it, 16 bars is a long time for somebody who's not really used to soloing, at least at this tempo. If it were a burner, 16 would go by really fast, but okay? Got it?
Thank goodness it's not a burner. I don't want that.
I actually think that burners are easier to solo in. I think
You don't really have to do anything.
I think
you
really
just put it
slow
away.
songs, I think those are the most brutal to try to solo in.
Got to write melodies that way.
Well, with a pitched instrument, particularly a wind, so guitars would have, I guess, not as much of a problem because they'll still hold notes. But, you know, when you get into these slower songs, you know, they'll just blow a note and they'll just hold it. They'll bend it, they'll play with it or whatever. But drums, we don't totally have that luxury. So we have to be really creative in the way that we fill up that space, but without packing it with too much energy because it's still a slow ballad. So definitely, like if I get called to do a solo and it's like a brush ballad, I don't like doing those. So, but if we're playing something super fast and they call, it's like, yeah, sure. You know, it's all quarters and eights at 350 BPM, like sure,
this.
no problem. Kind of. but more jazz, I guess. All right.
Can you do it like this?
If you're using it for yourself, you can do whatever you want with it, right? I just showed you a lick. If you want to change it into a way that makes it more yours, by all means. All right, here we go. All right.
You didn't say I had to end it like a jazz drum or something.
Nope. So let's critique. So what do you think went well, and what do you think could go better? What do you think?
The song overall went well.
Okay, I think so.
It could be better.
Sure. But it went well, so that's a good thing. What was one thing that you thought you did particularly well? Whether it's not getting lost, whether it's hitting the
lost.
figures over here, or maybe the way that you did the ending, or the way that you did
It was
some
not
kind of thing
getting
that
lost.
specifically sounded really good.
Not getting lost.
Not getting lost. So I know you've mostly got it memorized now at this point. I think if I took the chart away from you, you probably would still be fine. But you still know, if you then glance at the chart, you know where you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
It's
the
not
chart
just
helps.
memory. Okay, so it does still
I
help.
don't have just pure memory for that.
Okay.
Not
okay.
yet.
So you're still using it. Good. You should be. All right. Then what was one specific thing that you wish had gone better?
The solos.
You think the solos? Okay.
I just naturally go back to time.
Well, that's all right. So you can use time in your solos. That's not against the rules.
Yeah, but like you're saying you like 3 rough barks, and then but after that last one, my hand just goes.
Because you and I don't think that that's a thing that you should focus on too much, because what that meant was that when you ended the solo, you naturally went back into time because you ended your solo. It's kind of a weird situation for me to have you end a solo and then immediately start another one. That's kind of a weird thing. You won't normally do that. So for the sake of this exercise, we're doing it, but normally in an actual band setting, you wouldn't. So I'm not too worried about that. So feeling
there's
pretty.
times when you would.
Sure. So how's 354 feeling? Do you feeling like you're getting enough variety and still getting value out of it? Okay, good. Seem to have definitely gotten very comfortable with the timing of Dooba Dooba, because now you're not just doing Dooba Dooba all the time, you're changing it up a little bit. Every once in a while I hear doom dooba got doom, that kind of thing, right? So you're doing these things that still occupy the same amount of space. You're still playing 1 and 2 but it's not just the same pattern over and over again, that's the goal of all of this, right? Is I'm just giving you something to start with, and then you'll start to find things on your own that still work in that same amount of space. Okay? I think probably if I had to give 1 positive and 1 negative, I would say that I like that you're willing to be creative and to experiment even if it doesn't always go really well. So you're trying a lot of things every time, and every time you try something that feels good, you tend to remember it and try to use it again later, which I think is good. I think probably my 1 peak criticism would be that you still have a lead foot. Your snare wasn't as bad as often it is.
I am a rock drummer,
but
born a rock drummer.
Trust me, brother.
It doesn't.
I 100% understand. That's probably why I'm hyper aware of it, is because that was what I got a lot of criticism for, because I was a rock drummer that was trying to play jazz. So
jazz drummer trying to play rock though is the
your cymbals are really big, but your bass drum and your snare drum are lacking. So
or
yeah,
they're just
it does flip.
Small.
There is some validation in watching the flip there. I did have another interesting idea. I think, let me see, how are we doing on time? Yeah, all right.
About 15 minutes.
I think we can probably go for it now, and then we're gonna start looking at another chart probably next week.
Another chart. I'm easing into liking jazz. More charts.
I know.
We've
been on this same chart for a long time.
And it feels good to play it.
Yeah, good.
So yeah. I'm just
but here's the deal, right? When I put this chart in front of you, you were nervous about it and didn't want to do it, but now you like it. So if I'm telling you I'm getting ready to put another chart in front of you and you're going, wait, no, I don't want to do it. What if you like that next song even more? What if? Isn't that possible? You can't tell me that's impossible.
It's
maybe you
possible.
won't, but it's possible.
Possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
So I think it's still worth it. Do we have to beat it to death? No. If you don't like the song, we don't have to. But the big thing is that the level of comfort that you're starting to show me with this piece, I want you to have that level of comfort with reading on the spot in general. So that then when someone puts something in front of you, you can just go. I don't know if you remember it from when you were coming to my church all the time, but the songs that I played with the piano player after the service was over.
Yeah,
I remember.
I remember that.
Yeah. I never had a chance to prepare those ahead of time. She would walk up to me and she would put the music on my stand, and then I would just play it. It wasn't even a drum chart either, it was a piano chart. Right? Would you say that I felt pretty comfortable?
You look comfortable.
Yeah, I am comfortable in that environment. So she walks up to me, she puts music on my stand, and she goes, I'll start it. So she gives me about 4 bars up top usually so that she can set the tempo and kind of give me the feel of the song. And then I pick it up from there and push through for the rest of the song. But I keep track of where I am in the chart. I look for her specific hits like this, and I try to match her hits. And That's how we go.
I don't
In fact,
actually read the chart that much.
This was something she played the other day. So this is a piano chart. She gave it to me because I actually want to learn it on piano.
Mary, did you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sang that.
Good luck with those diminished chords.
I sang
And the
that
sharp
song
11s, I think.
Literally yesterday.
It's
Yes, you did.
it's full on sheet music, so it's not like a chord chart. So I'll be okay.
Well, I mean, like, isn't there the full stack chords on there?
I'm not seeing a lot. This looks like a pretty simple chart.
Looks like the vocal melody
Mary,
line.
did you know?
I don't know why it printed out so blurry. Like, look at that.
Can I
Like,
see?
hurts my eyes.
Yeah, that looks like a vocal chart, not a chord
Mary,
chart.
did you know?
Yeah,
I've
it's
actually-
definitely not a chord chart.
I
It's-
just
yeah,
sang
it's-
that yesterday night.
It's a piano arrangement.
Mary, did you know?
Yep.
Yeah, he actually did sing
Yeah,
that
I
song
did
last
sound-
night.
There's some chords over here near the end.
Ah,
There's out of nowhere right there.
But anyway, she'll just hand me something like this, which is a piano part, and I have to try to decide what are the important things that I want to try to hit with her at the same time, you know? Usually when I see long notes, that's a good indication that I should put some kind of symbol there, right? We've talked about those kinds of things. So when you see half notes, or you see an eighth note tied to a quarter or to a half, you see notes that are a little bit longer in duration, those are good to put symbols on. When you start seeing eighth note rests, that usually lets you know that there's going to be some articulated sections. So if things have a little extra articulation like this,
Yeah.
and for and for and,
that looks from right here. Looks like I'm looking at it from like closer up in my left eye.
oh, because it's blurry.
Yeah. Why
Yeah,
it turn out so weird? That one.
that was the file. So, but yeah. Anyway, so that's not even having drum charts. That's a piano chart, right? So
Wait,
the
you're
thing
trying
that
to learn piano?
well, that is why I have that one. But that's what Susan puts in front of me. She puts piano charts in front of me, and I play drums using her piano charts. Because we've talked about that a little bit already, right? So, in the same way that you're seeing this, right? That's not your part, right? Your part is here. It's the slashes underneath. That's your part.
No, this is the drums. Though. That is the drums. So
That one is. So yeah, up
this
here,
is
the
my
first
part.
four, that is correct. Here though, for this whole line, the only thing that they are telling you to do is that.
Oh,
That's the drum part.
so I can
Above
play-
it, up here, ENS. Did I tell you what that means?
Ensemble.
Yes. Those are the ensemble figures, okay?
So, really,
So that
the
means
guy's not
this is
doing
what the
anything.
trumpets and the trombones and the saxophone players, this is what they're playing. So while you're being told to play time, this is what they're doing. So you're trying to have a conversation with them while they're playing their parts.
Oh, so
So
I can technically the way to play it right is literally just to play time and watch out for this.
you can get a band through it doing that, and I have before when I was really inexperienced at jazz.
Yeah.
But what'll
so that
happen
makes
is that
sense.
people will then walk up to you and they'll go, "Hey man, like, can you hit some of our stuff? You know, can you set up some of our stuff? You know, it'll be more exciting if you do a little bit more, right?" So that's why we teach you to do all this. But when you get handed another person's chart, all this is what would be written up here, right? It's the same thing. So for me to
that
read a piano
is
chart,
actually relatively simple though.
as far as the drum part is concerned, technically speaking, yes.
Wow.
You would play 4-bar, or so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 eighth notes. You have a fill, that is your part. There's a fill. And then you get to here, you're just playing time again. They don't have any specific figures until once again right there. Right? So if you didn't have any ensemble figures at all, this would be completely bare.
think of it
Yeah.
this way, Bubba's. When you're playing your drums, do you want to play to the music playing, or do you want to play just to the metronome?
Music, of course.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you an illustration. How about this? What's one of the songs that you've learned recently that you think is fun?
Chick Magnet, MX
Okay.
Kids.
All right? Swap with me.
So yeah, we have
Yeah.
we're between 3 songs to choose for his January song, so we were gonna get your input too.
Oh, sure. Okay. I think. Yeah, after I show him this, we can talk about that.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead and click on it. What was I doing?
Nothing.
I didn't do anything. but could it work?
Yes.
Yeah, it can, right? So, similar idea, right? So he's doing all this cool stuff, and you're even kind of miming it, right? Because that's why I wanted to pick something that you were fairly familiar with, because it was going to frustrate you that I wasn't doing anything.
It worked.
Yeah, like please hit some of these fills. Please change up your pattern. Do anything else. It's
Yeah,
like,
the
nope.
pattern
Nope.